At 1:47 Friday morning, Lena Mercer's red grease pencil rolled across her kitchen table and bumped against the phone Wade had been calling for 6 straight minutes. She answered on the 7th. Behind his voice came the hollow, metallic bangs of the installation bay, men shouting cabinet numbers, and the shrill double chirp of a controller rejecting a command. "We need you at store 4x3, Wade said. "Hearthstone's people are already there. The release is collapsing." 3 days earlier, he had fired her in front of the launch team and told her she was replaceable while security walked her out. Now he wanted her to fix it overnight. Lena looked at the pencil, then at the unsigned severance agreement beside it. "I'll discuss it on one condition." A pause. Wade knew her pauses, but he had never been required to wait through one. "What condition?" "Put the request in writing." He exhaled through his nose. "Lena, we don't have time for this. You have my email." She ended the call before her hand could start shaking again. 3 days earlier, the same grease pencil had been between her fingers when Darnell from security rolled an empty gray tote beside her desk. The launch clock glowed on the wall monitor behind him, 72:14:09. The seconds continued to fall while nobody in the operations room moved. Lena looked at the tote, then at Darnell. He was a broad man with immaculate cuffs and the pained expression of someone who had been told to remove a hornet's nest using office supplies. "Is that for the cabinet samples?" she asked. Darnell glanced toward Wade. That was when she understood. Wade stood at the end of the conference table, one palm resting on the black launch binder. He was wearing the charcoal suit he saved for bankers and Hearthstone executives, although his shoes still had a crescent of aluminum dust near one heel. Wade could spend 2 hours negotiating a credit line and then crawl beneath a forming press because he disliked the sound of a bearing. It was one of the things Lena respected about him. It made what he was doing harder to dismiss as stupidity. "Your access has been discontinued," he said. Priya Shah sat halfway down the table with her laptop open. Her fingers remained above the keyboard, frozen in the middle of typing. Luis from refrigeration stared at the readiness sheet as though one of its cells might offer him legal shelter. Lena turned the grease pencil once between her fingers. "My access to what?" "Company systems and facilities. We have a launch review at 9. It's been reassigned." "To Priya?" Wade's jaw shifted. "Priya will coordinate the remaining work streams." Priya finally lowered her hands. "Wade, you told me Lena was moving into client support. I said we were realigning responsibilities. You said that 12 minutes ago. Then you've had 12 minutes to adjust." Lena almost laughed. Priya had a way of making the plainest sentence sound like evidence under oath. Wade usually admired that quality when it was aimed at vendors. On the wall, the clock rolled to 72:13:31. Lena looked down at the readiness sheet. 3 items were circled in red. Probe substitution not cross-validated. Firmware 6.8.4 not tested against mixed door controllers. Installation manifests generated before final serial allocation. Beside each item was a date, an owner, and Wade's slanted WM initials. "You're firing me 3 days before activation," she said. "We're ending your employment because you've repeatedly failed to support operational priorities. I refuse to sign a readiness certificate that isn't true. You refuse to find a path. I gave you 3 paths yesterday. You gave me 3 versions of delay." Lena tapped the first red circle. "Because Calvin Refrigeration substituted the PT12 probes after the listed model missed its ship date." Luis validated the replacements. Luis rubbed both palms over his thighs. "I bench tested 8. There are 112 installed. The manufacturer says they're equivalent," Wade said. "The manufacturer also says they need a controller offset, 1/10 of a degree, up to 8/10 under compressor load. Hearthstone's tolerance is 2 degrees. The tolerance isn't the point. The lockers use temperature behavior to flag a door that hasn't sealed. Change the probe response and you change the alert timing." Wade gave Darnell a glance. Not an order exactly, permission. Darnell bent and lifted the lid off the tote. "Could I at least use a box?" Lena asked. That thing makes it look like I'm being arrested at a craft store." A startled sound escaped Luis. He turned it into a cough. Darnell's mouth twitched. "They only gave me the tote." "Then the tote it is." She placed her framed commissioning certificate inside, followed by the small ceramic cup Priya had brought her from Santa Fe. It was shaped like a cactus and held 3 pens that had all stopped working months ago. Ordinary objects suddenly required decisions. Company stapler, leave it. Lip balm, take it. Half a sleeve of saltines. She put those in the trash because carrying them out felt unbearable. Wade watched her sort 12 years into plastic. When she reached for the launch binder, he pulled it toward himself. "Company property." "I know. I need my personal notebook from underneath it." He lifted the binder. Her green cloth notebook lay there, soft at the corners from use. Lena picked it up without opening it. "You're not to remove confidential material," Wade said. "I know what confidential means." "Darnell will review the contents." Darnell looked as pleased as if Wade had asked him to inspect her dental work. Lena handed him the notebook. "Pages with recipes are mine. Pages with cabinet serial numbers are yours." "There are recipes in your work notebook?" Priya asked. "One, for lentil soup." "Is it any good?" "No." Priya nodded solemnly. "Then I'd leave it." Wade's palm struck the table, not hard, but enough to make the binder jump. "This is exactly the problem. We are 72 hours from the most important launch this company has ever attempted, and you're all behaving as if deadlines are optional." The room tightened around him. Lena had seen Wade angry at warped panels, at late trucks, at a salesman who had promised a custom powder coat without checking whether the color existed. His anger was often productive. It put shape around a problem and made everyone run toward it. This anger wanted witnesses. She set the green notebook inside the tote after Darnell tore out 4 pages and placed them with the binder. "What happens to my team?" she asked. "Your former team reports to Priya." "And the readiness review?" "Will proceed at 9. Using which manifest?" "Priya will determine that." Priya shut her laptop. "I can determine it now. The manifests don't match the cabinets." Wade looked at her. "Then correct them. I need the final serial allocation from the warehouse. You have it." "I have 3 versions. You're the project manager. Deputy project manager. Congratulations on your promotion." The cruelty landed so casually that Priya blinked. Lena picked up the tote. It was heavier on one side because of the framed certificate. Darnell reached for it, but she shook her head. Wade stepped around the table. For a moment his face changed. Lena saw the cousin who had once driven 4 hours through an ice storm to replace a broken compressor at his father's restaurant. The cousin who could charm a stubborn supplier, remember the name of a machinist's favorite bourbon, and calculate freight utilization on a napkin. He looked tired enough to be ill. "Sign the separation documents," he said quietly. "Take the package. Don't make this into something it isn't." "What is it?" "A business decision." "Then why did you wait until the review meeting?" His eyes flicked toward the others. There it was. He needed them to see resistance removed. By 9, every red circle in the binder would look a little less serious. Lena's throat felt scraped raw, but her voice came out level. "I asked you a question, and I've answered enough of them for 12 years. You approved all 3 exceptions. I approved continued evaluation. Your initials are beside the release instructions because you refuse to move a project without surrounding yourself with paperwork. I surround your decisions with paperwork." Wade's face closed. "You're replaceable," he said. "The sooner you understand that, the easier this will be." No one spoke. Lena adjusted the tote against her hip and looked at Priya. There were a dozen things she wanted to tell her. Check the door address table against the physical harness labels. Don't let them push the patch to all cabinets at once. Call Owen at Calvin, not his dispatcher. Keep Luis away from coffee after midnight because he became aggressively philosophical. Instead, she said, The offset values are in the shared commissioning folder. Wade's voice sharpened. Darnell. Darnell opened the door. As he walked Lena past the production floor, people looked up from brake presses and welding curtains. A bank of pickup lockers stood near final assembly, white doors gleaming beneath fluorescent lights. To a customer, each one was only a numbered square with a handle. Lena saw the hidden order: left controller, right controller, probe channel, harness branch, cabinet identity. If any one of those disagreed with the others, a cold compartment could report itself warm, and a warm one could lie. Near the loading dock, Roy Bell was holding a roll of orange shipping labels. Roy had worked at Mercer longer than Lena and trusted computers only when they confirmed something he had already written on cardboard. His gray mustache lifted when he saw the tote. "What did you steal?" he called. "My cactus." "Always knew you were trouble." Then he noticed Darnell. The joke left his face. "Lena?" She kept walking. Outside, the October air smelled of wet pavement and the garlic bread from the Italian place across the access road. Darnell escorted her to her car, then stood beside the driver's door while she placed the tote on the passenger seat. "I'm supposed to take your badge," he said. She unhooked the blue Mercer lanyard from her neck. Its plastic sleeve had split at one corner. She had meant to replace it for 6 months. Darnell accepted it carefully. "For what it's worth, this is a lousy assignment." "It's worth a little. They disabled you during the meeting. You shouldn't try the gate." "I won't. And Wade said the company phone stays." She handed it over. When Darnell walked away, Lena sat behind the wheel and stared at the blank space on the dashboard where she normally clipped her badge before driving. The red grease pencil was still in her right hand. She did not remember carrying it out. Her mother called before Lena reached the highway. Lena let the first call go. Marianne tried again while Lena sat at a red light, and a third time as she pulled into the parking lot of a pharmacy she did not need. She answered. "Tell me you didn't leave," Marianne said. "They fired me." "Celia said Wade asked you to step away from the launch." "Security took my badge." A pause. Lena could hear silverware in the daytime television her mother kept on for company. "Did you sign anything?" "No." "Good. Don't sign while you're upset." "I'm not upset." "You're sitting very still, aren't you?" Lena looked at both hands locked around the steering wheel. "Yes." "That's upset for you." Marianne had spent 36 years doing payroll for Mercer Display Systems, first at a folding table in Celia's dining room and later in a glass office overlooking receiving. She retired with a cake, a gold watch she disliked, and an inability to imagine family trouble that could not be corrected through an amended form. "Come here," she said. "I need to go home. I made chicken. I'm not hungry. That has never been a requirement." Lena closed her eyes. "Mom, did you know?" "I knew Wade was frustrated. That wasn't my question. I knew Celia was worried the two of you had stopped listening to each other. He fired me in front of 11 people. Celia didn't authorize that. Did she stop it?" Marianne was quiet long enough to answer. Then she said, "Your aunt gave you your first real opportunity. Lena watched a pharmacy employee collect carts in a yellow rain shell. One wheel rattled every time he changed direction. I know what she gave me. This contract could secure the company for years. 200 people depend on it." "I know that too." "Then don't turn one ugly morning into a permanent break." Lena rested her forehead against the steering wheel. "Mom, they fired me." "And families say terrible things when they're scared. Companies document them." Marianne sighed. "You always did hide in the paperwork." The words were gentle. That made them worse. Lena ended the call, drove home, and carried the gray tote upstairs. At her kitchen table, she removed the cactus cup, the dead pens, the framed certificate, and the green notebook. A folded sheet slid from the notebook's back pocket. It was a photocopy of Friday's readiness matrix, the copy Lena had made Monday afternoon for a markup session at home. 3 items were circled in red. Wade's initials sat beside each one. At the bottom, beneath Lena's unsigned approval box, Wade had written in blue ink, Proceed. Reconcile in field if necessary. Lena read it twice. Then she set the red grease pencil across the page and waited for her breathing to slow. The severance packet arrived by email at 6:12 the next morning. Lena opened it beside a mug of coffee she had reheated twice. Human Resources had described her departure as an involuntary termination for failure to perform assigned duties, which made 12 years sound like one stubborn afternoon. The payment was 16 weeks' salary, contingent on her signing by Friday at 5. Her health coverage would end at midnight that same day. She read that line again. Her wrist procedure was scheduled for the following Thursday. It was small enough that the surgeon had called it routine, and expensive enough that Lena had moved money between accounts 3 times before deciding she could manage the deductible. Without the company plan, the estimate on the clinic portal looked like a telephone number. She flexed her right hand. Pins and needles ran from her palm into the 2 fingers she used to hold the grease pencil. A second attachment contained a reminder that all company information had to be returned or destroyed. Lena placed the printed readiness matrix on the table, set her green notebook beside it, and called the HR manager. Meg Donnelly answered in a whisper. "Can I put you on speaker?" "No." "Good. I hate speaker." "Is my health coverage really ending Friday?" Meg inhaled. "That's what the document says." "Who selected the date?" "The separation was processed as cause." "And who made that determination?" "You know I can't discuss internal approvals." "Meg, we ate vending machine pretzels together for 9 hours during the Nevada install." "They were stale. They were structurally unsound." "I still can't discuss it." Lena looked at the authorization signature on the last page. Wade Mercer, Director of Operations. Celia's name was nowhere in the packet. "Did legal review the cause language?" "I can't." "That means no. It means I'm at work and you're asking questions that produce emails. Emails are how adults remember what they've decided." Meg's whisper softened. "That sentence is probably why Wade fired you." "Probably." "I'm sorry, Lena." "Thank you." "Are you going to sign?" "I'm going to read it." "Read quickly." After they disconnected, Lena moved the clinic appointment into her calendar as if the act could preserve it. Then she put the phone face down and cleaned her kitchen. At 9, she washed the coffee mug. At 9:15, she scrubbed a patch of mineral scale from the faucet. At 10, she reorganized the drawer containing foil, batteries, 2 screwdrivers, and 7 takeout menus from restaurants that no longer existed. She knew what she was doing. In commissioning, there was always a moment when a technician began polishing tools because the next necessary step frightened him. At 11:20, Priya sent a message to Lena's personal email. "Do you have 5 minutes to discuss a lentil recipe?" Lena smiled despite herself. "No company information," she replied. "Understood. It's an unusually legal lentil soup." Priya arrived after 7 carrying a paper grocery bag and wearing the same navy slacks from the firing. Her hair, usually pinned into a smooth knot, had collapsed into a low ponytail. She took out a bottle of wine, a container of olives, and a loaf of bread. "I didn't know what people bring when someone gets fired," she said. "The internet said casseroles. The internet assumes a larger freezer. I considered flowers, but they seemed funereal. Wine was the right call. I brought olives so it could pass as dinner." Lena let her in. Priya stopped at the kitchen table when she saw the readiness matrix. "That's a company document." "It's my markup copy from Monday. I found it folded inside my notebook. You should hide it before I'm forced to become ethical." "You're already ethical. It's exhausting." "True." Priya set the wine down and leaned over the page without touching it. Her eyes moved across Wade's handwriting. "Proceed," she read. "Reconcile in field if necessary. He wrote it after you left the markup session." "I remember. He said reconciliation was a normal field activity." "It is, when you're reconciling one door, not 112 probes, a mixed controller population, and 3 versions of a serial manifest." Priya straightened. "I found the original in the binder." "Then you don't need this." "The original doesn't have that note." Lena looked at her. He removed the sheet? He replaced it. Same revision number, same date, but no instruction at the bottom. The red circles are still there. Are his initials? Yes. That was almost clever. Wade had preserved the proof that risks had been reviewed while removing the sentence that tied him to the field decision. In a rushed audit, the remaining sheet would look like Lena had circled concerns and then disappeared without resolving them. "Did you take a copy?" Lena asked. "No." "Good. You don't mean that." "I do. Don't start stealing records because I got fired. I exported the version history." Lena stared at her. Priya lifted one shoulder. "That isn't stealing. That's competent document control." "Where is it?" "In the project archive, where it belongs. It shows Wade replacing the file at 8:40 yesterday morning, 9 minutes before security arrived." Priya opened the wine with a corkscrew from Lena's foil and battery drawer. She poured 2 glasses, filling Lena's higher. "They went ahead with the review," she said. "I assumed." Luis added an offset to the probe profiles. "Across all cabinets?" "Across the profiles, yes. Whether all cabinets received it is a more spiritual question." Lena picked up her glass but did not drink. "Priya, I'm not asking you to solve it. You came here with bread and evidence. I came here because Wade promoted me while firing my boss, and today he introduced me to Hearthstone as the woman who would provide fresh accountability. I needed to sit in a room where that sentence hadn't happened." Lena cut the bread. The crust scattered over the table. "What did you say?" "I said accountability usually benefits from continuity." That must have delighted him. He clenched one molar. "Left or right?" "Right. That's the dangerous one." Priya laughed, then covered her face with both hands. The laugh turned into one sharp breath. "I should have said something yesterday." "You did. Not enough. There wasn't a sentence you could have said that would have kept me in the room. I could have walked out and lost your job." So you have a mortgage and a mother whose air conditioner is held together by optimism. Duct tape, too, then stay employed long enough to buy her a new one. Priya dropped her hands. "You make staying sound principled." "It can be. It can also become cowardice while you're busy naming it something nicer. You'll have to watch the line." They ate bread and olives over the readiness matrix. Priya told her Wade had reduced Friday's activation to the flagship store, 20 locker banks containing 100 doors, while keeping the other sites on the public rollout schedule. It was a reasonable adjustment. He'd also separated firmware from physical commissioning, assigning the patch to Mercer's software contractor and the serial reconciliation to the night installers. "They'll collide," Lena said before she could stop herself. Priya waited. "The patch identifies cabinets by the controller address table," Lena said. "The installers identify them by serial label. If the manifest is wrong, they'll update the right software on the wrong physical cabinet." Lena nodded once. "I know," Priya said. "I told him." "And?" "He said the warehouse was issuing corrected labels." Lena put down her wine. "Based on which allocation?" He said the final one. "There is no final one until Roy scans the pallets." Roy was told not to hold shipment for scanning. For several seconds, Lena heard only the refrigerator motor. Who told him? "You know who." The answer came Thursday afternoon in a photograph from an unknown number. 2 white locker cabinets stood on pallets beneath orange shipping labels. One label read HSM-04-C07. The metal serial plate riveted to the cabinet read HSM-04-C11. A second photograph showed a handwritten shipping instruction taped to the forklift charging station. "Relabel to manifest Rev C, do not delay truck." Whim, the message beneath the photos said, "You didn't get these from me," Lena typed. "Who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Handsome stranger." "Roy, your name appears when you send a text." There was a longer pause. "Technology is invasive." Lena enlarged the photographs. The mismatch was clear, as was Wade's instruction. Roy had framed the second picture so the date and time on the warehouse clock appeared above it. She wrote, "Keep the originals. Do not send me anything else. Are they shipping wrong?" Ask Priya. I asked Priya. She used the phrase controlled reconciliation. That means yes in project manager language. It means stop asking questions in writing. Roy responded with a thumbs up, followed 30 seconds later by, "Is that in writing?" She almost called him. Instead, she carried the phone away from the kitchen table and left it on the couch. The readiness matrix had remained where Priya saw it. Lena kept meaning to put it in a folder, and each time she touched the paper, she noticed Wade's note again. Proceed. Reconcile in field if necessary. At 6, the clinic called to verify her insurance for the wrist procedure. Lena gave the woman the policy information and listened to keyboard clicks. "You're active today," the woman said. "It may terminate Friday. Will you have replacement coverage?" "I don't know yet. We can rerun eligibility Monday. If it's inactive, the self-pay estimate is $28,600, but that includes the facility hold. The final amount may be lower." "How much lower?" "I wouldn't want to guess." Lena thanked her, rescheduled the procedure for 6 weeks later, and opened the severance agreement. Her cursor hovered over the electronic signature box. 16 weeks would cover the procedure, her mortgage, and enough time to find work without panic. The release required her to waive any claim arising from the termination. It also allowed Mercer to characterize her departure according to its internal records. Failure to perform assigned duties. She closed the document. Celia came by at 8 with Lena's ceramic casserole dish. "You left this at Easter," she said. The dish had been at Celia's house for at least 4 years. Lena stepped aside anyway. Her aunt wore a camel coat over black work trousers and had removed her makeup badly, leaving a faint gray streak beneath one eye. At 68, Celia still walked through the factory every morning. Employees lowered their voices around Wade. Around Celia, they straightened crooked objects. She placed the dish on the counter. "I didn't approve the way he did it." Lena folded her arms. "I didn't," Celia repeated. "Did you approve the firing?" "I approved a change. That's a payroll answer. I thought he was going to move you off the launch and offer you a transition role." "Did you ask what that role was?" Celia looked toward the readiness matrix. "He said you wouldn't accept it. He never offered it." The streak beneath Celia's eye made her look bruised. "Wade believes you were undermining him. Wade believes disagreement is disloyalty when he's in a hurry. And you believe caution is always courage." Lena felt that one land. Celia took off her coat and draped it over the chair. "You can make a person prove the sky is blue before you'll agree to stand under it." "Sometimes." "You made your first installation crew log every stripped screw." A stripped screw started an electrical fire in Tucson. 7 years later, and you still have the photograph. It was an impressive screw. Celia's mouth almost softened. Then Lena's phone vibrated on the couch. Priya had sent one line. Store 4 can't map physical cabinets to controller addresses. Hearthstone moved their team visit up to tonight. Celia saw Lena read it. "What happened?" "You should ask your operations director." "He's not answering me." "That sounds operational." "Lena." She put the phone down. Celia glanced at the readiness sheet again. "Can it be fixed?" "Most things can." "How long?" "That depends on what they shipped, what they changed, and what they're willing to stop. They won't stop the demonstration. Then it depends on what they're willing to show Hearthstone." Celia picked up her coat. At the door, she turned. "Your mother thinks I should make Wade apologize." "My mother thinks apologies are a form of office supply. She thinks the two of you can still repair this." "Which two?" Celia did not answer. The first call came shortly after midnight. Wade's name glowed on Lena's phone until the screen went dark. He tried again at 12:18, 12:40, and 1:10. At 1:32, Roy sent a picture of 3 cabinets with their access panels open and cables spilling onto the tile like exposed veins. At 1:47, Wade called for the 7th time. That was the one Lena answered. After she told him to put the request in writing and ended the call, silence returned to the kitchen so abruptly that she could hear rain ticking against the window. The email arrived 4 minutes later. Subject: Transition support Lena. Please report to Store 4 immediately to assist Priya with remaining launch activities. We can address compensation and separation details afterward. Wade, she read it once, picked up the red grease pencil and drew a line through the word assist. Then she replied, "This does not state what you are requesting, what condition the launch is in, or what authority I would have. Put the actual request in writing." Wade's answer appeared before her sent message notification disappeared. "We are requesting assistance with technical issues you were responsible for managing before your departure." Lena read the sentence twice. He had found a way to ask for help and assign blame with the same 12 words. She typed, "I am no longer responsible for managing Mercer work." 3 dots appeared in the message window, vanished, and returned. "This is an emergency. Then describe it accurately." The dots did not return. At 2:12, headlights swept across Lena's living room. Celia's sedan stopped crookedly at the curb, one tire against the storm drain. She came up the steps carrying a cream envelope under her coat. Lena opened the door before she knocked. "Please tell me you didn't drive here while arguing with Wade." "I stopped arguing 6 miles ago." "Did he notice?" "He may notice tomorrow." Celia stepped inside, bringing rain and the smell of factory coffee with her. She put the envelope on the kitchen table beside the readiness matrix. "He sent you. He doesn't know I'm here. That's new. Don't be difficult for recreation, Lena." "I'm not enjoying it enough for that." Celia sat. Under the kitchen light, her face looked thinner than it had 2 hours earlier. She turned the readiness matrix toward herself and traced the 3 red circles without touching them. "Hearthstone's Dana Kessler is at Store 4, she said. She brought their head of store systems and the regional operations manager. Why did they move the visit up? One of their store managers sent photographs of open access panels on the sales floor. Dana was already in town. What are the temperatures? They don't trust the display values. Actual temperatures. I don't know. Door assignments? I don't know. Which cabinets received the patch? Lena." Those are the first 3 questions. If Wade can't answer them, he isn't asking me to help with remaining launch activities. He's asking me to determine what exists. Celia pushed the cream envelope toward her. Inside was a 2-page consulting agreement and a cashier's check for $10,000. The agreement retained Lena for up to 24 hours of transition support. It gave her no defined authority, required her to follow Wade's direction, and said her work would not alter the stated basis for her termination. She returned both pages to the envelope. "That's generous for transition support. It's more than 2 weeks of your salary. It's less than the procedure I had to postpone this afternoon." Celia's eyes lifted. "What procedure?" "My wrist." "You said that was next month?" "It was next Thursday." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I had insurance until Wade decided I didn't." Celia pressed her lips together. "I can fix the insurance." "Then fix it, because ending it in 4 days was cruel. Don't fix it as payment for this." "The benefit system may not, Celia." "All right." Rain tapped the range hood vent. The cashier's check remained half visible inside the envelope, its edges too clean against the worn tabletop. Celia said, "You know what I built that company with? 2 borrowed presses and Grandpa's terrible bookkeeping. Your mother fixed the bookkeeping. Eventually. I built it by taking work before I knew how we would do it. I said yes, then we learned. That is what Wade thinks he's doing." "I know." "He isn't lazy. He isn't playing with the company. I know that too. He got Hearthstone to take us seriously. He redesigned the line so we could build the cabinets at volume. He negotiated the controller supply when everyone else was waiting 9 months. And then he turned a readiness review into a loyalty test." Celia looked down. Lena softened despite herself. "Aunt Celia, Wade's good at a lot of this." "Then why are we sitting here?" "Because being good made him think the parts he doesn't respect must be easy." Celia took the agreement out again. "Go to the store. Stabilize what you can. I will straighten out the language tomorrow." "No." Lena, Dana Kessler is standing in a flagship location at 2 in the morning watching our cabinets get dismantled. Then she's seeing the current condition. Do you want us to lose Hearthstone? The question had been waiting all night. It was larger than Wade, larger than Celia, larger than the humiliation of carrying a plastic tote across the production floor. Lena pictured Roy near retirement. Luis with 2 daughters in graduate programs he talked about during every long installation. Meg's stale pretzels, the welders on second shift, 200 adults whose paychecks had nothing to do with the way Wade looked at her across a conference table. No, she said. Then help me. I am. You're sitting in your kitchen. I'm refusing to make the same mistake again. What mistake? Solving his problem without making him own the decision. Celia stood so abruptly the chair legs scraped the floor. This is my company. Then put your name on the request. The anger in Celia's face went still. Lena took a blank sheet from the printer and laid it over the consulting agreement. State that Mercer terminated me Tuesday morning after I declined to sign the readiness certificate. State that the 3 issues I identified remain unresolved. State that you are retaining me to assess the launch condition and propose a recovery plan. If you want me accountable, give me the authority to stop any cabinet bank I can't verify. Celia stared at the blank page. You want us to confess incompetence to our own consultant? I want you to describe the job. You know how that document would look. Yes. And you know what Hearthstone would do with it if they saw it. They're already looking at open cabinets. The front door opened behind them. Lena spun around and Marianne stepped inside holding the spare key she had carried since Lena bought the house. You could knock, Lena said. I did. You were conducting labor negotiations. Marianne closed her umbrella in the entryway and looked from Celia to the cream envelope. She wore tan rain boots beneath her robe and had tied a silk scarf over her hair. Celia said, You called her? I called you, Marianne said. You didn't answer. At our age, unanswered calls after midnight have categories. This one is employment, Lena said. I gathered. Marianne came to the table, read the first page of the consulting agreement, and turned to Celia. This is terrible. Thank you, Marianne. You're welcome. You're calling her an independent consultant and putting her under the direction of the man who fired her. Payroll would reject this. You are retired from payroll. Payroll is a condition of the soul. Lena sat back. She had not realized how badly she needed someone else to find the document insulting. Marianne picked up the cashier's check. This would cover your wrist. I'm aware. And you could still refuse to sign the severance release. The consulting agreement incorporates it by reference. Marianne found the paragraph, then looked at Celia over her reading glasses. Really? I didn't draft it. You brought it. Celia took the check from her and shoved it into the envelope. Marianne pulled out a chair. I told Lena not to make an ugly morning permanent. I remember, Lena said. I was wrong. The admission was quiet and unadorned. Lena's eyes stung so quickly she turned toward the window. Marianne continued, An ugly morning is already permanent. The question is what record it leaves. Celia lowered herself into the chair opposite her. For a moment, the 3 women sat around the readiness matrix the way they had once sat around holiday menus and medical bills and the paperwork after Lena's grandfather died. In their family, documents had always arrived after the pain, trying to make it orderly. Lena's laptop chimed. The email was from Priya, forwarded from Wade. Subject, Preliminary Launch Incident Summary. Wade had copied Celia and 3 Hearthstone executives. He wrote that transition gaps following the departure of the former commissioning lead had resulted in incomplete cabinet mapping, inconsistent technical documentation, and uncertainty regarding probe configuration. He said the active team was working to reconstruct undocumented procedures. Lena reached the last sentence and stopped. Celia held out her hand. Let me see. Lena rotated the laptop. Her aunt read without speaking. Marianne moved behind her and read over her shoulder. At the bottom of Priya's forwarded message was one line. This is false. I told him so in writing. I have withdrawn from the demonstration team. A second attachment contained the version history from the project archive. It showed Lena uploading the readiness sheet Monday at 4:06, Wade opening it at 4:31, and Wade replacing it Tuesday at 8:40. The instruction he removed appeared in the preview. Proceed. Reconcile in field if necessary. Celia shut her eyes. He copied the client, Lena said. He's trying to get in front of it, Celia replied, by putting me under it. He believes the missing handoff is the issue. Does he? Celia looked at the version history again. At 3:16, another message arrived from Dana Kessler at Hearthstone, addressed to Wade and Celia. Dana's language was restrained enough to be alarming. She requested a cabinet-level recovery plan, a named technical authority, and confirmation that the demonstration would be limited to equipment whose temperature and door mapping had been physically verified. She did not mention Lena. She did not have to. Celia reached for the blank sheet. What else? She asked. Priya retains project authority and receives written protection from retaliation. Celia wrote, every installer and technician working past scheduled shift gets the emergency rate. That's already policy. Then it will be easy to promise. Celia wrote again. My severance is released without the cause language. My benefits continue through the end of next month. Neither is contingent on the consulting work. You're negotiating 2 exits. Wade created 2 problems. And your fee? $275 an hour, 12-hour minimum. Marianne gave her a look. Your wrist surgeon charges more. My wrist surgeon has better lighting. $350, Celia said. Lena looked at her. If I'm going to be furious, I'd rather not also be cheap. She wrote the number down. Celia sent a photograph of the handwritten terms to Wade. His response came by text to all 3 of them. Absolutely not. This creates an admission where none exists. Lena picked up the red grease pencil and placed it across the unsigned paper. Then he has his answer. Celia's phone rang. She walked into the living room to take it, but Wade's voice carried. You don't know what she's doing, he said. I know exactly what she's doing. She's using the launch to reverse a legitimate employment action. She's separating the launch from it. She walked out without a handoff. You had security remove her. She refused direction. She refused to sign because she wanted this moment. Lena felt the words like a hand between her shoulders. Celia looked toward the kitchen. You think she wanted to be humiliated in front of her staff so she could charge us by the hour? I think Lena needs to be the person who warned everyone. No, Celia said. Lena needs everyone to remember what they approved. She ended the call. The next email from Wade arrived 15 minutes later. It was formal, polished, and almost useless. Mercer Display Systems requests that Lena Mercer provide temporary consulting services in support of transition activities and launch remediation, subject to operational direction. Celia printed it on Lena's small inkjet. The page came out with a pale stripe down one side because the cartridge was failing. Lena circled transition activities and subject to operational direction in red. What would satisfy you? Celia asked. The truth. Specific words, please. We're past poetry. Lena wrote beneath Wade's paragraph. Mercer requests Lena Mercer to independently assess and remediate launch failures involving cabinet identity, probe configuration, and controller mapping that remained unresolved following her termination. Mercer acknowledges her documented readiness objections and grants her authority to pause any unverified equipment. Celia read it once. Following is not the same as caused by, she said. Correct. You're leaving him that distinction. He can keep every distinction that's true. Celia sent the revision. Wade rejected Priya's protection, then accepted it if the language covered only the demonstration. Celia changed it to all launch duties. Wade objected to the installer rate. Marianne found Mercer's own emergency pay policy on an old benefits portal and read the number aloud. Wade went silent for 7 minutes. At 4:28, the corrected request arrived with Celia's electronic signature. The line beneath hers remained blank. "He won't sign," Celia said. "Then I won't go." Dana Kessler emailed again. The first Hearthstone executives were due on the sales floor at 7. She needed the recovery scope by 5. Celia forwarded the message to Wade with 4 words: "Sign or I remove you." His signature appeared at 4:36. Lena read the document from top to bottom. She checked Priya's authority, the emergency pay, her severance, her benefits, and the right to stop any cabinet bank she could not verify. Then she signed. Celia let out a breath. "Can you save the launch?" Marianne asked. Lena slipped the red grease pencil into her coat pocket. "I can tell them what's actually ready." She picked up the signed request and walked out into the rain. Store 4's automatic doors opened onto a row of shopping carts and the smell of floor wax. Beyond the dark produce section, white locker doors lined an entire wall near customer service. Half their access panels had been removed. Coils of cable rested on the tile. A folding table held 4 laptops, 3 flashlights, 2 cold cups of coffee, and a bag of powdered donuts crushed beneath a controller manual. Priya stood at the table with her coat still on. When she saw Lena, she looked first at the signed document in Lena's hand. Did they agree? They signed. Both of them? Both. Priya held out her hand. Lena gave her the request. Wade came around the open end of the locker wall. His suit jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled above his elbows, and a thin cut crossed the back of one hand. He looked at Lena without greeting her. "We've isolated the patch issue," he said. "Calvin loaded the wrong probe offset to bank 7. We need you to confirm the correct values so we can push them globally. No, read the logs. I'll read them after I know which controller belongs to which cabinet. We have the corrected manifest. Which revision?" D. Priya looked up from the signed request. "There's a D? We generated it at 150. From what?" "The field labels. The field labels are wrong. Some of them." Lena laid her coat over a chair, took out the red grease pencil, and placed the signed request beside Wade's laptop. "What are the actual compartment temperatures?" Wade looked toward Luis. Luis was kneeling beside an open cabinet with a handheld meter clipped to his belt. He stood slowly. "Between 36 and 43, he said. "Which compartments are at 43? "That's the problem. The display says C12. The probe channel says C8. The harness label says C10. And the calibrated meter? In the compartment physically labeled C11. Wade spread his hands. "Which is why we need the correct map." "Good, we agree on the problem. We agreed on it 3 hours ago." "Then why are you proposing a global patch?" His eyes moved to the document. Dana Kessler approached from the customer service counter with 2 men wearing Hearthstone visitor badges. She was smaller than Lena expected, with short silver hair and red-framed glasses. Her expression suggested she had already heard every version of the night and found none of them nutritious. "Are you Lena Mercer?" she asked. "Yes. Dana Kessler, Hearthstone. This is Alan Cho, Store Systems, and Marcus Bell, Regional Operations." Hands were shaken. Nobody pretended the hour was reasonable. Dana glanced at the signed request. "Do you have authority to make the readiness decision?" "I do. Wade told us the release remains on schedule." Wade stepped closer. "I said we are still targeting the scheduled demonstration." Dana kept looking at Lena. "Is the release on schedule?" "No." The refrigeration fans hummed behind the locker wall. Dana said, "What can be ready by 7? "I don't know yet." Wade's voice tightened. "We need an answer. You need an honest answer. We have 2 hours. We have 2 hours whether I lie or not." Alan Cho covered his mouth, pretending to consider the cabinets. Lena asked Priya for the latest controller export, the original allocation file, and the warehouse scan history. Then she asked Roy's location. "Loading dock," Priya said. "He drove the last truck himself after he decided the carrier was an idiot." Was the carrier an idiot? Roy presented evidence. They found him standing inside the open trailer drinking gas station coffee from a cup large enough to qualify as equipment. 2 remaining cabinets were strapped to the wall behind him. "You came," he said to Lena. You photographed company documents and texted them to a terminated employee. I was overcome by your cactus. Do you have the pallet scans? Roy raised his cup toward a battered clipboard on the dock plate. Scans, receiving sheets, and the orange label backing. Kept all of it because somebody told me paper was obsolete. The label backing showed the order in which warehouse staff had printed and replaced the cabinet identities. Roy's photographs captured the original metal serial plates before the relabeling. The receiving sheets showed where each pallet had been unloaded. Lena carried the clipboard to the folding table. We can rebuild the physical map, she said. Not for all 100 doors before 7. How many? Dana asked. 20 compartments, possibly. 4 contiguous cabinets. We physically identify each cabinet, trace each harness to its controller, verify the door address, compare the probe against Luis's calibrated meter, and run an order through every door. 20? Wade said. We promised 100. You shipped 100. That isn't the same thing. We can verify more if we split the team. No, one method, one record. You always want one person watching another person work. Yes, it's called verification. It's called slow. Dana tapped one red fingernail against the signed request. 20 working compartments would tell me more than 100 uncertain ones. Wade turned to her. We can do better than 20. I'd like you to, Dana said, once someone can show me how. Priya removed her coat. You withdrew from the demonstration, Lena said. I withdrew from Wade's demonstration. This one has written authority. She opened a clean spreadsheet. Luis brought his calibrated meter and a bucket of ice water he had made in the deli prep sink. Roy spread the shipping records across a second folding table. 2 installers, Tasha Green and Ben Colby, began removing access panels in a straight line instead of hopping from one reported error to another. Lena assigned every cabinet 2 identities, what its riveted serial plate said and what its controller reported. Priya read the original allocations aloud. Roy matched each serial number to a pallet photograph. Luis traced the probe leads by hand. The first cabinet was correct. The second wore the label meant for the fourth. The third had the right label and the wrong controller address. The fourth had received the firmware patch intended for the 7th. Your wrong things aren't even wrong consistently, Marcus Bell said. Luis looked up from the ice bucket. That's what gives them character. By 5:40, they had a physical map of 4 cabinets. Priya printed it from the store manager's office. Lena checked it against the metal plates, then circled 2 door addresses in red. These are duplicated. Priya leaned over the controller export. C4 and C4. Tasha reached behind the second cabinet and pulled a harness tag into the light. The ink had smeared, turning a 9 into something that could pass for a 4 if a person was tired and needed it to. Want me to change the tag? Tasha asked. Not yet. Photograph it first. Wade made a sound under his breath. Lena looked at him. Problem? We're photographing a smudged label while the client watches us miss a launch. The client is watching us find out why. The client is watching you perform caution. Dana, several feet away, said, The client can hear you. Wade went back to his laptop. At 6:10, the 4 cabinets held temperature within Hearthstone's tolerance. Luis confirmed each probe against his meter. Ben loaded test orders into all 20 compartments, while Alan watched the controller events. Priya scanned each order from the customer side, and Tasha confirmed the correct door opened. Door 17 opened for order 18. Priya stopped. Wade leaned toward the screen. That's a software mapping error. Swap the 2 addresses and continue. Lena looked at the physical table. Don't swap anything. We know the correction. We know the symptom. We don't have time to investigate every symptom. We're verifying 20, and we've verified 18. We've found 18 that work and 2 that don't. You can disable the 2, after we identify why. Wade's hand came down beside the laptop. Hearthstone's executive group arrives in 35 minutes. We have 80 other doors sitting dark. If you let the team push the corrected table, we can light at least 60. Lena took the signed request from beneath Priya's clipboard and placed it between them. Beside it, she laid the readiness matrix she had carried from home. The pale store lighting caught the 3 old red circles and Wade's blue instruction at the bottom. Proceed. Reconcile in field if necessary. The agreement gives me authority to pause unverified equipment, she said. I know what it says. You're directing me to release it anyway. I am asking you to exercise judgment. I am. His face hardened. You are using this floor to punish me. No, I'm using this floor to do the job you put in writing. This is about Tuesday. Tuesday is why it had to be in writing. Dana moved closer, but did not interrupt. Wade lowered his voice. You could have fixed this without making a spectacle of the company. You fired the commissioning lead in front of the launch team. You removed her sheet from the binder, shipped against the old manifests, and told the client she failed to hand off undocumented procedures. Which part did you expect me to correct quietly? I removed a note that was no longer current. The instruction was still being followed, because the underlying decision was sound. Then why blame my handoff? For the first time since Lena arrived, Wade had no immediate answer. She slid the signed request toward him and handed him the red grease pencil. If you're withdrawing my authority, write it here. He stared at the pencil. You want me to stop the verification and release 60 doors, Lena said. Put that request in writing, too. His fingers closed around the pencil, but he did not lower it to the page. The refrigeration fans cycled off. In the sudden quiet, a floor polisher whined somewhere near the bakery. Wade set the pencil down. Keep the other 80 closed, he said. They traced the final error to a door table generated from revision C before the cabinets were relabeled. Priya restored the 2 addresses from the original allocation. Alan confirmed the event log, and Lena made them run both orders again. At 6:48, all 20 compartments passed. The Hearthstone executives arrived to find 4 illuminated cabinets and 16 dark ones. Dana did not disguise the scale of the reduction. She explained that the limited demonstration represented equipment verified against physical identity, actual temperature, controller mapping, and live order flow. The first order opened the correct door. So did the next 19. Marcus logged the temperature readings while Alan watched controller events. Luis stood behind them with his meter, trying not to drip ice water on his shoes. Priya tracked every result. Roy remained near the folding table, guarding his clipboard like an artifact from a more reliable civilization. At the end, Dana closed her tablet. Hearthstone will accept this as a controlled pilot, she said. The other sites remain on hold. Before expansion will require a full root cause report, revised commissioning controls, and a named operational lead independent of manufacturing release. Wade's face revealed little. Understood. Dana looked at Lena. Will that be you? No. My assignment is this recovery? Then who? Lena turned to Priya. Priya blinked. I would need authority before the morning it becomes useful. Celia, standing behind Dana, said, You'll have it. Wade looked at his aunt. Celia did not look away. You'll retain manufacturing and supply operations. Launch readiness will report directly to me until we restructure. You're deciding that here? I'm stating it here. I decided when you signed the request. Wade nodded once. It was the controlled nod of a man absorbing a blow in public and refusing to offer anyone the satisfaction of seeing where it hurt. When the client group moved toward the conference room, he stayed beside the dark cabinets. Lena collected her papers. You got what you wanted, he said. She slipped the readiness matrix into a folder. I wanted you to listen on Monday. You wanted me out of the succession. I wanted working lockers. He laughed once, without humor. You always reduce people to the mistake you documented. That's not true. It's what you did to me. Lena looked at the open access panels, at the line he had redesigned to build them, at the hardware he had negotiated through a shortage. Wade had brought the company farther than Celia would have risked taking it. He had also needed everyone to believe he could do it without the person who kept asking where the risks went. "You built a good product too fast," she said. "Then you treated the people slowing you down like defects in the line." His jaw moved. "You are good at your job, Wade. You just decided my job wasn't real until you needed it." He looked toward the conference room. "You could come back." "Under you?" "No." It was the closest thing to an apology he could manage before sunrise. Lena picked up the red grease pencil. "No," she said, but that was almost a respectable offer. Her severance arrived the following week without the cause language. Mercer extended her health coverage, and the risk procedure went forward on the rescheduled date. For a while, Sunday dinners were smaller. Wade stopped coming if he knew Lena would be there. Marianne stopped arranging the seating as if distance were a clerical error. Hearthstone's wider rollout resumed 3 months later under Priya's authority. She stayed long enough to finish it, then gave Celia 6 weeks' notice and joined Lena. Tasha and Ben followed after Mercer's installation season ended. Their new commissioning practice began with 4 folding tables, 2 calibrated meters, and a contract Lena made every client sign before work started. Mercer became their 3rd customer. Celia complained about the hourly rate and paid every invoice on time. On a cold morning the next fall, Lena stood inside another grocery store before opening, testing a row of pickup lockers while her repaired wrist warmed inside a compression glove. One compartment drifted half a degree during the door seal test. The store manager glanced at the clock. "Can we let that one ride and adjust it after activation?" Lena took the worn red grease pencil from her pocket and circled the reading on the paper traveler. The manager studied the circle, then reached for the pencil. "What needs to change?" he asked. Lena showed him. He corrected the setting, ran the test again, and initialed the clean result. When Lena left, the pencil rested behind her ear, and every door opened for the right order.